fantastic.
Yeah,
that's brilliant. Yeah, spot on. Thank you. Away you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so hi guys, I'm Rafal. I'm with the TOPdesk account management team. I've been here for about 3 years. I work closely with customers from a range of industries, including legal, manufacturing, housing, and councils. Today, I'm actually going to be showcasing TOPdesk's easy-to-use solution, but mainly focusing on the latest product developments that make the role of service departments and the lives of end users easier. So at TOPdesk, we actually believe that any application of AI in service management should ultimately lead to a better customer experience. And that's true for both end users and operators. And it's probably particularly relevant in today's environment with more and more users making the kind of home environment their office environment. So we're going to be looking at how we achieve this currently across 3 key themes. So firstly, we're going to look at TOPdesk codeless design. So there's really no technical background needed to using TOPdesk. So we encourage self-sufficiency when it comes to operators using TOPdesk post go live. We really want them to be able to keep pushing out new services to users without leaning on consultants' expertise every time. Secondly, hyperautomation is this recurring theme around machine learning, and AI is becoming more and more pertinent. So we do have virtual assistants, chatbots available through our digital marketplace via our technology partners. But today's focus is actually going to be more on the new technologies that are available out of the box that assist agents. So things like knowledge base, KI suggestions, smart categorization, call affiliation. So really leveraging pattern recognition and also effective operators. So features that really speed up ticket registration, also reducing human error and improving accuracy. Lastly, reports and analytics. So we've seen quite a lot today about sort of reports and the importance of using data in a smart way. So we're going to be looking at how to effectively manage our workloads day to day and ultimately becoming more efficient at what we do. So I'm going to take you on a bit of a journey. We're going to start by looking at the end user side of TOPdesk, and we're going to finish by looking at the agent view, the operator side, and highlighting the latest kind of smart features along the way. So hopefully now you'll be able to see the login screen to TOPdesk. TOPdesk is a 100% web-based application. It's also browser agnostic. So first thing I'm going to do here is log in to the self-service portal as a general user, somebody called John Dean. We do support Active Directory link and single sign-on. Now, the first thing to point out is that the TOPdesk self-service portal is permissions driven. So what you can see here is what John Dean can see. So it's everything from the top left, the logo there, the banner, the service icons that make up the service catalog, the images, the wording, and also the subpages that sit behind some of these service icons can all be configured to suit the end user logged in. TOPdesk also works from a single instance. So we have multiple departments, a true example of ESM, where we have travel and finance, HR working together. As far as the end user is concerned, it's a single one-stop shop for them to find what they need. Before we look at the widgets on the right-hand side, I'm just going to start by using kind of an everyday application. Once again, more and more users are beginning to work from home. Let's suppose that as John Dean are having a problem accessing an Office 365 application. So TOPdesk does have a dynamic search bar here that supports fuzzy search logic that encourages users to find what they're looking for. If I start typing Office 365, for example, notice how TOPdesk scans the entire database for any results containing the keywords. So anything from previous reservations, phone book entries, requests, knowledge base articles, and services and forms, the most relevant at the top. So here is the service page for Office 365 application. We can see there are a few FAQs already published against the service. So what we're doing here is publishing any knowledge articles that can help the end user self-solve and resolve the issue before they log it as a ticket. What we're not doing is stopping them from logging that ticket. So we have a couple of forms that have already been published to encourage them to log their issue. And all of the forms in TOPdesk that look like this are actually completely codeless, as I mentioned earlier, and use drag and drop capabilities. So if I start looking for the application that's involved here, So let's say there's a problem with Microsoft Word. Notice on the right-hand side how automatically possible solutions that contain any keywords begin to pop up. So it's another last-ditch effort to try and identify a fix for the issue. Let's suppose we're having a bit of an issue. We're unable to open a Word document. Once again, similar process takes place. And for the sake of this example, I'm going to say it doesn't affect more than one user, and we can submit our request of issue. And here we can see there's a unique identifier that's been generated where I can later track my request. So if we go back into the self-service portal, if I wanted to understand where some of my previously logged tickets or requests are up to, I can go into my requests. And from here, as I mentioned, John Dean is actually a manager of a group. Therefore, there are certain permissions that are enabled for his use. So for example, being able to view not only his own requests, but those of the team as well. But in TOPdesk, what we believe beyond kind of the quantitative metrics, equally important are qualitative metrics. So things like, what is the general sentiment? Are people happy with the service that's being provided to them, particularly now that there's more of a physical distance between us and our employees. So if I have a look at a previous request that was submitted, it's possible for end users to submit up to 5-star report feedback that in the back end we can generate reports on, and perhaps pull up a report that shows us all customers that have generated a rating of less than 3 stars, and launch a separate campaign to understand how we can improve as a service department. Another example of a service that we've provided would be within my workspace. So here we can see that there are other subpages that have been published here. So again, the end user isn't going to be kind of ITIL savvy when it comes to terminologies being used. So we want to present everything as simple as possible in layman terms for them. So if they're looking for a mobile phone service, they could search for that, or they could find it here by navigating the self-service portal. So once again, we have the service, we have more information about this particular service, some FAQs, and on the right-hand side, again, those customizable forms, but these could be anything from tickets to report a troubleshooting issue. It could be a request for a mobile phone application, or perhaps requesting a mobile phone. Now, if we go back into the self-service portal, on the right-hand side here, I mentioned there are a couple of widgets that we've published. Now, this is a way for the operators to work in a more proactive way. So if we're aware of a broad service disruption or a major incident in ITIL terms that's affecting more than one user, rather than waiting for an influx of calls to come in all about the same issue, we can be proactive and broadcast those instead to our users who are affected by the issue. So let's say there's a problem with the emails not currently working, and we're aware that this is affecting us. So John Dean here can see more information about what's being done. So currently an engineer has been called out to look into this issue. That then enables him to also opt into the disruption by clicking on this button here. And what that does is it creates a ticket relationship between a major incident and any child tickets linked to it. So closing off that ticket in the back end, updating the status of it will send out updates to John, who's opted in. As I mentioned again, John Dean is a manager, so there are certain privileges that are enabled for his use. So for example, there are some approvals processes that have been published onto his self-service portal. So from a team member, Angie Cape, we can see she's requesting SharePoint access in order to view some documents. We can see her original request here. And on the right-hand side, we can also see the approvals workflow. So this is what needs to happen next. So John Dean here is the approver, so you can either approve or reject this request. And now we can see that the approvals workflow has been updated and Angie's been notified. So just to show some other features that we can possibly enable within the SSP, we're seeing more and more that the use of analytics and data is pertinent, especially with certain user groups. So John Dean is a manager of a team, so there may be certain reports that are relevant that he would like constant visibility of. And a self-service portal is a good place to publish those. In TOPdesk, we do have a very simple 5-step report building wizard, which we'll look at later. TOPdesk does also enable integrations very simply with business intelligence tools like Microsoft Power BI. It's actually possible to embed those reports within the SSP and the dashboards on the operator side. But here are just some examples of some cool reports that may be of interest to him in his role. And finally, I mentioned earlier that TOPdesk is a single instance, but we can have other departments like travel and finance, HR self-service also using the portal. A common example of a process which involves multiple departments is perhaps the new starter process. So we quite often see examples where there are quite a lot of different departments involved. You may have HR, facilities, security teams, as well as IT all involved in onboarding a new starter. So TOPdesk uses, again, these drag and drop capability kind of forms to capture the information that's needed to kickstart the change process. And that can be published here in the self-service portal. The forms are actually have a little bit of dynamic logic built into them. So if we select certain radio buttons, you can see there are location-specific options that appear below. So there is some level of customization that's allowed within those. So that's everything I wanted to cover on the self-service portal today in the time that we have. I'm now going to log out of here and log back in and on the operator side as another user. So this time an administrator, Dawn Meadows, with all permissions enabled. So first thing is we're looking at Dawn Meadows' landing page as an operator. Now, the landing page is customizable. It is widget driven, so it's possible to move the widgets around on the page so that each operator can achieve the look and feel of the operator landing page that they want. They can also prioritize certain views that are important to their day-to-day roles. On the left-hand side, we have a few shortcuts. So if we hover over these icons, we can see what they are. We can also expand and collapse this view. But I wanted to start by showing a few of the kind of main pages that come with TOPdesk. So there are a few on here that we can see, but perhaps Planboard is a useful way to for operators with teams to manage their workload visually. So here we can see the various operator groups. We can see what they're working on by hovering over these blocks. So for example, Crystal Heath, the first line support technician, is taking a sick day, so we may not want to assign a ticket to her if it's going to breach the target date. And we can do that for, obviously, for any other kind of departments that we can see here. And it is permissions driven, so if somebody doesn't have the permissions to accept a job, TOPdesk will block that from being assigned. Another view that's becoming more and more popular, I think this has already been mentioned today, is the more agile way of working. We have a Kanban board within TOPdesk as well that particularly suits the smaller teams' way of working. So we can have it broken down by certain departments. We can see what the various columns are as well, and we can kind of drag those tickets from one to the other. We can also reassign these tickets from one engineer to another. Dragging these across from one queue to another will also update the status of that ticket as we move it into close, for instance. Now, the next widget that I wanted to focus on is My Tasks. Now, this gives us a list view based on the various different kind of tasks and activities. And I wanted to show you the first bit of automation here in TOPdesk. So if we take the example of first line calls, we can see in this first column that Dawn Meadows has 17 currently not closed calls. There are 110 left open in the organization. If we wanted to have a closer look at this, we can find a list view of this. And actually looking at this, you can see there's a color scheme to some of these calls, first line calls, some that are new in, others that are in breach of their SLAs and due to breach as well. We can actually configure this view completely, so we're only looking at the information that we want, and there's quite extensive filtering that can be applied in this view as well. But if we select one of these at random, we can actually see more information in terms of the request, the action, any supporting documentation. But the feature I wanted to highlight in particular is this one here called similar calls. Now, this is something called call affiliation in TOPdesk. And what it essentially does is it tries to identify similarities between calls, maybe the root cause analysis. We can even open the view to find those similarities here, and perhaps use this in conjunction with processes like problem management as well. On the right-hand side, so under current major causes, we may recall when we looked at the self-service portal that John Dean could opt himself into a broad service disruption. In the example that he's not using the self-service portal, and instead he's calling in to the service desk to say that he can't access his emails. But as an operator, we're already aware that this is an issue. We can actually template some of these responses and eliminate a lot of duplication of effort. So if we're aware that there's an email outage and somebody's calling up about it, we can simply opt him in by linking the new first line call, adding the name of the caller, and everything, as you can see within the call card, has already been pre-templated, has already been responded to. So we can simply save and fire out the email to John in a couple of clicks. And we can do a similar thing for any shortcuts. So it may be that you're getting a lot of forgotten password requests. And once again, it's a very similar process, just templating responses and using those to speed up the request fulfillment process. There are other widgets that if we had more time, we would focus on that can be embedded, such as specific reports and selections and data queries. But right now, I wanted to just point out what the customizable forms look like. So I did mention at the start, or a few times, that we do have drag and drop capability, and TOPdesk is completely codeless. And that really means that people with no technology, no real technical background can actually build these forms, customize them, and publish them to the end user. And the way that this works is we have a few drag and drop options in terms of the types of questions that we ask the end user, radio buttons, checkboxes, drop-down lists. Maybe you want to know more about who the caller is. We can make certain calls mandatory and create those drill downs as well. On the right-hand side is where we find the rules. So once we've published the form, we also need to be able to predetermine some logic that sits behind the form. So things like, what is the category that should be assigned when this form is filled out, or what is the priority and duration that's based on the priority matrix that determines the service window. So things like that. We also have browser-based notifications in TOPdesk, so ensuring that you never miss a thing. So if there's a call that's been updated that was linked to you as an operator or a task, then we can see those here in the browser as well. Now, the next example that I wanted to kind of walk you through, or the journey, is one where somebody's calling up the service desk, but we know nothing about why they're calling at this stage. So this is literally a caller card that we need to open to find out more about who the caller is in step one. So let's just suppose it's John Dean again who's calling up. And the first thing we can see is there's a list of his previously made calls. And once again, we can see as we select any one of these that there is this similar calls functionality enabled here. So we can see if there's any linkages to other issues that we're already aware of from previous log tickets. Let's suppose that there's an issue this time with a printer. He's working from the office and he's saying the printer is not online. So it's throwing up a error 1990. We can then create a new first line call from the caller card. Now this appends any information from that caller card into the first line ticket. We already know who the caller is. We know the entry type that he's telephoned in, and it's about a failure. TOPdesk actually goes one step further, and it tries to automatically assign a category. So there is a feature called category suggestions, and it usually picks the most relevant one first. So we can see that this is indeed to do with a printer, and it's based on a request field or the brief description in TOPdesk. It's actually also identified a standard solution based on some of these rules as well that we can apply. But perhaps say another way to work would be to use the knowledge base that we saw already in the self-service portal. So remember how John Dean could access the knowledge items to help him with his query. In the same manner, the operator can do the same. So if I type printer, I can see a list of my knowledge items here. If I pick the top one and it happens to be the one that we need here, we can also see that it's already linked to a standard solution, which is good news because it means if we apply it, it's actually pre-filled a lot of the information that we need, including the priority level. Now, all we need to know at this stage as well, which printer is it? John Dean isn't too sure. If we need to know more information, we can also open his person card, find out more information about the caller in general. And this could be information such as his average feedback rating, but it could also be a graphic overview of any assets that are aligned to him as a user. And there we have it. Printer 0100 is the one that we're looking for. So that's the one that we will input here. So now we're building up a map of what's going on. Where are these failures occurring? We've responded. We can now save. It's also, there is an editable email here that goes out, which obviously can be edited for maybe a more personal touch with the end user. So that was really the really simple process of logging a ticket with as much aid and help from TOPdesk as possible. But the journey doesn't usually stop there. It might be that there is actually some deeper root cause for the issue with the printer, and we now need to solve the issue permanently by replacing the printer. So what can we do from here? Well, from the incident card, we can create a request for change. We can do a number of different things as well, but if we use the example of creating a change, we can see that we can either create an ad hoc one, or best practice suggests we should be using templates wherever we can standardize a process. So if we just search for the correct one here, replace printer, we can now create the change request, and we can see that this now needs to be submitted. It's copied everything across from the call card. We can now submit the request. And here we have a few change controls. So these are the activities that will be taking place. And here is a kind of last opportunity to maybe make some changes to who will be carrying out the activities, and also what are the implementation dates. If we're happy with them as they are, let's now apply the template. And here we have it. We can see in the planner view that already the first step in that change process, which is placing an order for the printer, has already occurred. And before the setting up of the printer can take place, testing, rolling it out, and ultimately updating our CMDB. So that's the journey going from logging a ticket to the change request process. Now, we can take it one step further and suppose that actually there's an issue with one of the servers that we've just been alerted that's throwing up a bit of an issue and affecting other services, but we don't know much about it. So what can we do? We can search for the asset. And let's just have a look for all the servers that we have access to. And straight away, we can see from this list that server 002 here seems to be impacted. So let's have a closer look at what the reasons might be, or what it's showing. And every asset card like this in TOPdesk can be customized as well. So we can see there is a design mode option here. So we can actually open, add, and remove certain widgets if there's particular information that you want to see. But if we're happy with this as it is, we can see information like any relationships between the asset, any dependencies, but also a full audit trail here of any changes or that are linked to the asset as well. We also have assignments based on location and persons, financial information, but again, this can all be customized. But perhaps the most powerful feature here is the diagrammatic view, the network topology that we can see here. So here we can already see, because the server is impacted, it is having a knock-on effect on a couple of the VMs. And if we take this one as an example, that's the financial systems running off that VM. So it's actually having a knock-on effect on a certain group of users, also SAP users. So these are the stakeholders that will need to be notified. The process for notifying these users can be an automated one using events and action sequences in TOPdesk. So because the relationships already exist at this level that we can see visually, they will have a corresponding effect in terms of who gets notified and when as well. So that's a quick overview of the asset management side of TOPdesk. Next, I just wanted to show more on the dashboards and reporting side of TOPdesk. So if we go into the dashboards, we can see that we can have separate views based on the type of functionality that we have available on the left-hand side. So here we have service desk KPI-based reports. And once again, if you prefer to use business intelligence tools like Power BI, then those can be embedded here instead. But for the purpose of this demonstration, we'll show you the kind of native reporting options in TOPdesk and what they look like. We have the IT dashboard, and again, because it's shared services, we can have one for different departments like facilities as well, so on and so forth. Now, the process for creating a report couldn't be easier. We do have a 5-step report wizard in TOPdesk. If I go into the menu, reports, and you can see straight away there's quite an extensive list of what we can build these reports on. But if I perhaps start with calls, we can see step 1 asks us to narrow down the selection of data, the time span that we want to report on. So we can actually be very specific and first create that data query. So this is a little bit like a SQL data query where we can find information relating to a specific data set. But for the purpose of today, we'll have a look at all calls. Step 2 is to select the field on which we want to build the report. So I'm going to initially look at things like all calls logged, but of course you can look at performance reports, breached and achieved. You can look at other things like services, time spent, costs and duration, as well as feedback, as we talked about those feedback ratings earlier. Step 3 is to create the drill downs. So from here, we have quite an extensive drop-down list. For the purpose of the demo, we'll have a look at the category, followed by the subcategory. And in the third layer, let's understand who the caller is. And then the final step is to select how we want that data to be displayed. So I'm going to go with a pie chart, and straight away we can see that the category of network and data communication has generated the highest volume of calls. So that might beg the question, why? If we drill down further, we can see that's one of 2 options there. Either there's an issue with the printer or the root cause, maybe the server. If we go with printer first, we can see that perhaps actually on the closer inspection, there's a user training issue rather than a problem with the hardware. It could be that John Dean seems to have generated the highest volume of calls, mostly in demonstration environment. But here is a list of those calls. We can also link them to problems, or we can simply save and schedule this report to come out on a timely periodic basis as well. So that's everything that I wanted to cover in terms of today's demonstration in the time that we have. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Rafael. That was, again, very comprehensive. Thank you very much indeed. Again, a lot of focus on codeless and drag and drop and widgets. Excuse me, the customizable features there, as well as the assistive capability. We have a couple of questions that have come through, so we'll see what we can get through in the next couple of minutes. Excuse me, guys. Just clear my throat there. We've got a question from Errol, which relates to the title of the caller block. Can they be changed in the forms?
The title, yeah. So so there are certain levels of customization that can be done quite easily in TOPdesk. So the title of the call block, I believe, is one of those, but certainly every other drop down option that comes after that is fully customizable as well. So there are some adjustable names in the settings available.
Thank you for that. And I think we might be able to squeeze one more in just before 50 minutes. The asset overview and the mapped impact, that was quite interesting to see, because it makes the job a little easier, doesn't it, and visualizes all that as well. So configuration is obviously a key question, I think. So there was a question that we had from, I'm going to say, I think it's probably Alessandro. Are all assets discovered automatically? And I'm assuming that's using the tool. Or is that some kind of, integration with another asset tool? Or does that happen in the tool itself?
Yeah, good question. So the mapping of the impact and the relationships is all done within TOPdesk on the process side. The notifications of the event can, as you probably saw in the toggle switch option of the impact, can either be automated or it can be manually triggered. So for the automation to take place, that would need to come from an asset or network monitoring tool or asset discovery. Okay. So that would be
the discovery. Well, it's a really good question, actually. Thank you, Daryl and Alejandro, for that as well. There was another question which related to APIs, but I think you've answered that in relation to accessibility to to some integrate stuff. That's great. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay,
Thank you.
so we're going to close there. Hopefully, you'll be joining us soon as well for the panel discussion.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, fantastic. Great. Okay, so we're going to bring this broadcast to a close here, guys, and get ready for the next one. Again, that's going to take a few minutes. So if you could just bear with us. In the meantime, just refresh the browser in a couple of minutes and you'll be joining us then. So we'll see you very, very soon. Thank you.